Good morning, friends and family. Steve Wormer coming with you at the You Are Worthy Network. You know, a little different from me today. It's Wednesday morning. Usually don't do a lot of interviews on Wednesday. I catch up on some other work on Wednesdays, but it's worked out that God has put me in connection with my friend and brother Kenny Sexton. So I was like, yeah, let's do it on Wednesday morning. So I hope all you guys are doing well, having a great start to your week. I can't believe we're already halfway through the week. That doesn't even make sense to me. But I love this time of day when we go live because I get to be the one, my absolute joy, and I am grateful to be able to tell you guys, remind you guys that you are worthy of love, respect, and success. And no matter where you are on your journey, that's a fact. You are worthy of it because of what Jesus did on the cross. Before that, no, we weren't so worthy. But because of what he's done, we are worthy, and he loves us and he wants the best for us. And whatever you've been through in the past, I'm not minimizing it at all. You were worthy then. And today, maybe some dreams haven't happened for you yet. Maybe there's some things you're praying about that haven't happened yet. God hasn't answered them yet. You're still worthy while you wait. So be encouraged by that fact. I appreciate each one of you. Without any more belaboring the point by me, which I can tend to do as a preacher sometimes, I want to get into our guest today. And you know how I'm going to do this. Those of you that watch me a lot, we're going to read Kenny's bio, and then we're going to jump in to introducing him and learning more about him through his words. But Kenny has been happily married for 33 years to the love of his life, Gina, and is a proud father of three and a grandfather to six. With a passion for leadership and transformation, he has had the privilege to speak, coach, and train in 5 countries, equipping individuals and teams with the tools to grow, lead, and thrive. As the founder of Bucket Flipper Coaching and a certified member of the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team, Kenny specializes in DISC, leadership development, and personal growth strategies. Through coaching, he challenges leaders to break through limitations, build high impact teams with intentionality, and lead with urgency and purpose to create meaningful change in their businesses, communities, and families. Ultimately, Kenny coaches to bring clarity, next steps, and encouragement, drawing out your full potential, bringing glory to God. Why? You were made for more. When your life is over, you can resoundingly say, no regrets. I love that. I love that. I can't wait to dig in. Kenny, welcome to the You Are Worthy Network, brother.
Well, Steve, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Like you were saying right before we went live, I met Kenny, I don't know, maybe 15, 18 months ago or so, and Zoomed a couple times. And I think you guys are going to find the faith and the positivity and the energy that Kenny brings is quite contagious. I hope that you'll find that to be the case. Kenny, one of the blessings that we have, many, is that as the group has grown, people are all over the world eventually going to be able to have access to your interview. So I never want people to assume, that they know where you're at. But can you tell us what part of the world you're coming from today?
Yeah, Steve. So we've lived around. Okay, so being in ministry, well, you know how that is. We've been from state to state, but we currently we're in the southern part of Georgia, kind of the south central eastern part of the state. So anybody knows we're about roughly an hour and a half from the Florida line and 3 hours south of Atlanta. So that kind of gives you an idea where we are.
It's hot in the summer.
It is hot in the summer, and we have a lot of what we call gnats. Okay, and they're
Yeah.
just a pain. I mean, they're just a pain.
Yeah, there's some creatures we don't understand why God made them, but if you still have questions when you get to heaven, which I don't think we'll be so in awe. But if you had a question, gnats, Mosquitoes, platypuses, those might be at the top of our list of questions. I don't
Well,
know,
I
but
can promise you, if I get to ask that question, it probably won't be relevant, of course. But I'm just going to ask, why gnats? I thought that was in the plague series, and I thought we're okay. I thought that was Old Testament. I thought we got that rectified in the New. But
uh,
man, something happened, man. I'm like, I don't know, buddy. They are just full on down here.
that's hilarious. Okay, so married 33 years. That's awesome. If I read correctly, right, 3 kids and 6 grandchildren. Is that right?
Yeah, and it just has gone by so fast. I mean, I think one of the things that you and I both have heard, man, for many, many years is, man, the days are long and the years are short. And man, we just blinked and like, how did this happen? And we had a picture made 2 Christmases ago with everybody in the picture, and we're like, wow, just how blessed we are. But yeah, we've been married 33 years, 3 kids, and man, they've been being taking the Bible seriously, be fruitful and multiply. So we're recipients of God's goodness in that, and we just love each one of them and what they bring and the joy they bring to our family.
Are they in close proximity to you, or are they spread out over the
No, they're
country?
split. Yeah, we got some. We got one in Kentucky, one in South Carolina, and the other one lives in Germany. So they're
Oh,
spread out. So we've got to go across the pond to go see the other.
which you're more than willing to do, I'm sure.
We're willing to do.
It's funny you were talking about time. It's like I say once in a while, that old quote of "time flies when you're having fun." As I've gotten older, I've learned that no, it just flies. So you better have fun because
Yeah,
like you said, it's just gone.
yeah, and you know as well as I do. You've come across so many people over the years, especially in ministry, or can be in corporate America. It doesn't matter, but just see how people are just beat down. Like every day's a drudge. Every day's just one of those, and I'm guilty as well. I've been there too. I mean, just getting through the day, getting through the day. But then I say this when I talk to different people, talk to younger folks, especially they're getting started in their marriage, or maybe they're in their 40s and they're kind of in the prime season of their careers and stuff like that. I'm like, man, listen, I'm gonna tell you what, you think it's fast now. It becomes rocket fuel like at my age. I mean, I feel like we really do have the octane that's in the space shuttle, right? I mean, that booster rocket that's there. I feel like that's
Yeah.
what we're living in. I mean, it's hard to believe like this year's almost over with, and so like October, where did it go? So it goes by so fast, and you got to enjoy every moment. You just have to be in the present moment of every day that you can be.
Yeah, crazy. Like to think about, was it really 10, 11 months ago, 12 months ago that we were planning our goals for 2025? And if you're one of those people that has a theme word, which I was one of the later ones to get on that train. I think I just started doing it a couple of years ago, but it's like we were doing that a year ago, and here we are again about to do it, if not already.
That's right.
Crazy.
I know. I know.
So tell me a little bit about the transition. You were a full-time pastor for a number of years, right?
Correct. Yeah. So I was in is full time vocational ministry for 32 years, and so man, many different roles. Of course, I finished up in that lead role as a pastor, and in 2023, man, everything changed on a dime. I mean, when they say that life comes at you fast, I mean, things just happen, and you just never know what's gonna, the next day is gonna turn. And we hear that from James. I mean, why, like, Jesus says it. Well, hey, why worry about tomorrow? Because it's going to have enough trouble for itself, right? And so, today we just enjoy today. But in July 3rd of 2023, I was in my third year at a church as a lead pastor, and I suffered a stroke. We had
Mm,
just gotten back from a mission trip in Guatemala, which is crazy to think. Man, I was in Guatemala just a day and a half before this went down. So on this particular Monday morning, everything was different. Suffered a stroke, ended up at the hospital. The doctor told me that the gravity of it, see, was one of those things. You hear these words many, many times. You hear things and phrases that you really don't forget. And so the doctor said, Kenny, you dodged a bullet today. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And he said, you had a stroke equivalent to a Widowmaker heart attack.
mm,
Now, the people that I know that have had Widowmaker heart attacks, they're not here. thus the Widowmaker heart attack, right? But he said you had a stroke equivalent to that. And here's what he told me. That these are words that I just haven't forgotten. He followed that back up to say, chances are, if you were asleep, you wouldn't be here today.
Wow.
Okay. Now he walked out of the ER room where I was at, and my wife, man, we just grabbed each other's hand, and literally for about 5 minutes, man, we wept. I mean, just wept. Like those 6 hours when it first came on until he told me those words, that was about 6 hours later. Um, I had a good sense of humor. I wasn't, man, I wasn't worried. Like literally my prayer was, God, you do what you do. That was my prayer. God, you do what you do. I meant two things in that prayer. One, take me home, because that's be a glorious place. Or number two, stop what's going on. And I just said, you know me, you created me and fashioned me, but you do what you do. And for whatever reason that I'll only know one day, he left me here. And so with that, I hear these words. I mean, chances are, if you've been asleep, and I peel the layers back, Steve, to think just 48 hours before I'm in a different country. Before that, just fast forward that few hours before, I'm about 6 hours away from Guatemala City, which has the best health care. So why not Guatemala? Why not on the bus going to one of our places, which would be in a very remote area? I mean, again, you kind of play through those scenarios and you go, okay. So that happened in July, and I was just so blessed to be on staff, and them love me and care for me, and let me heal, let me grow. It took me about maybe 8 weeks to get back into the preaching kind of rhythm, and I kind of inched my
Wow.
way. It took me, yeah, because it was pretty serious, Steve. I was sleeping about 18 to 19 hours a day every day for about 4 months. I mean, just how my brain, took the hit. I just had to start rewiring stuff. So I'm walking differently. My cadence, my rhythm's different as far as my preaching goes. Steve, you know what it's like as a communicator. You can grab an index card or have a sticky note. There's 3 bullet points, man. You're rolling like nobody's business. And I know we trust the Holy Spirit to do all those things. And man, you're preaching. I had to go to everything being written and having to be read. Now think about that total shift. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can go, memory's good, you can go to now everything being right here in front of you. And you got to read every word and connect
Mm-hmm.
and be somewhat in this fog that I was in for literally, for a while. So about at the year mark, I really felt like it was best that I try to heal. My right side of my body was still not quite there where I wanted to be. I was about 85% back. So I'm not fussing. I got the bust the chops moment with that one too. So if I started getting into a pity party of myself, my pharmacist got me one day. You'll get a kick out of this. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the house. I don't know, maybe somebody out there in this YouTube world that they'll hear this can relate as well. I was telling myself, man, if this is as good as it gets, man, I'm all right. If this is as good as it gets, I'm okay. Hey, but this is as good as it gets, I'm great. And I go into my pharmacist. I guess I didn't say those words. And he stopped me, man. I know God using me. He said, Kenny, do you realize that you're a blessing and not a burden? And I'm like, what do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
He goes, oh, he said, you see where you're at today? He said, you could be in a nursing home drooling all over yourself. Man, I waved, I walked out, but that was a good whipping that I needed, because I just left the house saying one thing and now I'm in a space and I'm kind
Mm-hmm.
of having a pity party, right? But we got God used that, because I was sitting there going, yep, you're right. Okay. So I'm 80%. I'm looking at other people and they're in a nursing home. They cannot, now their life is radically different. We've got some friends who they've gone through strokes as well, and they're nowhere close to where I'm at. So I got to the year mark, and I said, it's probably better if I try to go heal, let them move on as well. And so I stepped away at that 4th year mark. And about 8 days later, I kind of leaned into what my wife and my daughter been really encouraging me to do for upwards of 20 years. Kenny, why don't you go into coaching? Why don't you go into this stuff? And training's been kind of my sweet spot anyway. That's been discipleship, the training, that kind of stuff is in my wheelhouse. But 8 days later, I joined the Maxwell team. I realized, hey, I'm gonna sign up and go in this area, and we haven't turned back. So, yeah, 32 years in the ministry. A stroke is, man, just about took me out, but I had to heal and I had to work through that, and I still wasn't fully healed. It took me almost about a year and a half, and I would say even up to 2 years this past July. I finally, over the last 2 months, can say I'm probably 99% back today.
Wow. I mean, I think I even realized when I met you, I mean, I mean, you're open about your story,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think I put two and two together that I'm thinking timetable now. Like when I met you, that stroke was just a year before, if even that.
That is
And
correct.
I mean, I'm sure you hear this all the time, like from somebody that doesn't see you every day, I can't tell that you had a stroke. So I
That's
mean,
correct.
praise God, and I know you did a lot of hard work and a lot of rest to get there. But I always say God does the heavy lifting, right? He did the healing, and I mean, you're a miracle, bro. That's a miracle by the hands of God. The timing, the location, the all of that, the medical care, remarkable. And I know that transition probably was emotional, even though it was your decision. But bro, I mean, you're all over the place, and I mean that in a complimentary way. Like you're coaching and you're training and you're speaking. You're all over the place, and I know you. It's um it's thrilling, but you're doing it to help people. You're doing it to serve. You're doing it because, like we talked about a few minutes ago, time is short. And, I think you were using the example of talking to people in their 40s about, you're in the prime of your career. Well, in some ways, bro, and I don't know your exact age. I think we're probably very close. I'm 56. Um, some ways you're in the prime of your career now. You never thought you would have probably said that 10, 15 years ago, right?
I wouldn't have, because we really do believe, man, that 40s to 60s is that time range where you're really leaning into the best part of what you do in your career. But I believe you're correct. I think I've made more impact. I think there's more impact today than maybe I've done in many years. Guys, just to open up something very different for me to walk through, and the season that I've walked through, and the healing that he's allowed me to experience. Because I'll tell you, Steve, when that stroke was going on, there's nothing I could do. Like, this is not like I'm a coughing, I've got a little sore throat, let me go grab some Robitussin, or let me take some whatever else. No, this was legit going on from top of my head to my chin on the right side was numb. That's what and when I got up and walked down the hallway, I was now favoring my right side a little bit. It wasn't right, it was off. And so when I walked into the bedroom, I told my wife, I said, I think I'm having a stroke. But just even in that, to think that you're in control, to have that one moment to go, man, we're a heartbeat away. And that truly, I mean,
Mhm.
like, I know this full well. Like, I know today could be my last day. I know that, like, right now, legitimately, this could be my last time having an interview or a conversation, or I could drop right here in the middle of it. Like the awareness of the breath of life, like the things that he's taught me. Like, you take you take the acronym time. Okay, so one of the things I've learned in this is that, Psalm 90:12. It's really interesting because I memorized that verse years ago. I've spoken on that verse. I've tried to live that verse. Just, hey, Lord, teach me to number my days that I may gain a heart of wisdom. What a great verse! Now he's got 11 more verses before that to really, really read about and lean into. But that one verse, kind of culmination right there. And so I took time and said, well, teach me, man, teach me to number my days. Teach me to know what the priorities are. Teach me to get the best out of every single day that I can. And it can be attitude, it can be encouragement, it can be the people. The I was more or less like invest in your health. Like there's a place for us, like we've got a temple that we've been given. Now, what's interesting is that my doctor told me that COVID caused my stroke. Now, that's what's really weird.
Mm.
Okay. I had COVID too. I hadn't had COVID the whole time. That's when I got it. But that's what he said.
Mm.
Okay. So I'm going off my doctor's words. But you take that. So invest in your health. So many people, when they get about that 30-year bracket, they start losing themselves with their health. It is the rat race of life, of their just how they live and just what they've got to do to go to work. And the kids are now starting to grow up, and now we got to go to t-ball, or we got to go to cheerleading, this and so now you're running all over the place. And what does that mean? It means more fast food. It means more just different types of foods,
Mm.
right? And so now you see some of the times where they starting to gain more weight, or they, but all this stuff, and then all of a sudden they have kind of a little bit of epiphany in the 40s, like, oh, I've got to get really good. And I was a triathlete back in my 40s. So I know what it's like to run, bike, and swim and do a half Ironman and know all that kind of stuff and put nutrition in your body. But really, like, Lord, okay, I need to invest in my health. Show me what I need to do with the food that I put in there as fuel. And then what I really love about the time acronym was margin for meaningful relationships. Like you'll go to your deathbed, and you and I both know we visited so many people. They never say, wish I had one more day at work.
Yeah.
Never. Nobody said that. They're looking at going, man, I wish I had one more. And so in that time, I got a good time to reflect. Man, margin, what's the white space in my calendar? Like I know pastors have certain demands, there's certain expectations, and depending on the size of the church. And then of course there's corporate leaders the same way. I was just talking to a brand new startup leader yesterday of how they feel like they cannot go anywhere, and then they've got the phone right there in their hand because that employee is calling them left and right. I'm like, but you need to be away to get away, to be away. So, but margin for meaningful relationships, because you need to have those in those times. Because think about it. Here, see, here's the thing about that margin. When it sunk in with me, that day, July 3rd of 23, was the day that my wife could have been a widow. That was the day that my kids didn't have their father, earthly father, or my grandkids didn't have their grandfather anymore. Now to think about that, then you go, wow, if I'm not here, what are those meaningful relationships in somebody's life? And then I'll tell you what the shift was. It was really when I leaned into that you got to embrace the challenge, but you got to shift the focus. And I think that's really, that was a turning point for me. I've got to embrace what's happened, and I've got to embrace to say, well, why not me? A lot of people say, why me? Why me? Well, why not me? And so in that, I go, okay, I'm going to shift my focus, because what I focus on grows. That's when my pharmacist kicked me in the tail, basically right there, right? You're a burden, not you're a blessing, not a burden. And when he said those words to me, then there it was, shift your focus. What you're focused on grows. Shift your focus, because man, he is good. God is good. You are healing. You are recovering. Yeah, you got some setbacks, but it really sets you up for that comeback that you're going to see in time. You're going to overcome some things. Just be patient. Learn some things from me. Teach me to number my days, that I may gain a heart of wisdom. I've grown in wisdom in 2 years, Steve, over this experience.
Oh, I'm sure. And I definitely want to get into what you do here in just a second, but just to take you back to those comments by the pharmacist, because you get to choose your perspective, right? And your reaction. So, a lot of times, depending on where we're at, somebody says that to us, we could be defensive, we could be prideful, we could make excuses, we could blow it off, right? But I'm sure, like all of us, you probably don't bat 1,000 on this, but that day you chose to be humble, and you chose to be grateful for his comments, and God bless that.
100%. Yep.
Yeah, he will bless humility every time.
Yeah. Yeah. So good.
I don't know why I don't know why I don't do it more then, right? No.
That's right.
So okay. I think when I first met you, you were already, yeah, I mean, obviously you were already doing the Maxwell thing, you were doing the coaching, but Bucket Flipper, that was not the name of your coaching, I don't think, when I met you. How did your coaching practice evolve to that humorous, but I know there's more than humor involved. It makes people want to inquire, but tell us how that came about. What's the vision there?
Well, it's funny because you know how it is. You can manufacture things, okay, and this is cute. And let's go to AI. Let's get some Chat GPT things, whatever you go. But then there's just things that are given to you, and you go, "Yep, that's it." Like you say it, and it's like, "No, that's it. That's the one." I was just talking to my coach and was just sharing with him an idea. I had an idea about my coaching, business and what I'd love to do, and really kind of who I am, which is really interesting because for many many years I've people said, man, Kenny, you're really encouraging. Like, I encourage people. There's that encouraging gift that I've got, and I almost lost it. Like, there's a season I almost lost that gift. I mean, and like, okay, Lord, thank you, I still have it. But bucket flipper coaching, when I started going back, because we all have to go back and reflect on things. What are the experiences in our life? I've just given you one traumatic experience in my life. I mean, I pray nobody goes through a stroke. But if you do, man, you can kind of lean on my story, to have the belief in my story that you can have as well. But when I was thinking about through my life, okay, what are some experiences? You're trying to craft some of these stories that you got in your life and those meaningful moments. And I reflected back, and here's what happened. I started thinking about back when I was a baseball kid playing Little League Baseball in the fourth grade. And I was a bench warmer, Steve. Like, I was a bench warmer. Like, I didn't get to see the field but one time and bat one time. That was it. That was it. And I got to sit on the bench and clap. That's where I got to exercise my encouraging gift as a fourth grader, right? But I wanted to be on the field. And so my mother had a conversation with my coach after the last game, and I'm leaving the dugout. And she's walking up to me, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is not going to be good. Mama's coming out, right? And so, long story with that is that she left that conversation. She was challenged to get her own team and show up on the field. Okay. And my grandfather was up in the stands, and she said, "Okay, you're coaching next year. You get a clipboard and get a team." And so that's where I learned voluntold. Like, he got voluntold what to do. But he'd go to work. He worked it's like electrical and supply companies where he worked. He worked all day. Come home, I'd meet him at his house, and he would go inside. He would change his clothes. He would grab this 5-gallon paint bucket, and he'd come outside and he'd flip the bucket over. He'd sit down on it. He'd slap his mitt and he'd say, "Okay, let's go, Buck." And so he would just work on my pitching. He's working on my mechanics. Not a lot of words said between that, or he may just give a little coaching here and there. But he just let me pitch, and he'd kind of guide me a little bit. And then on Saturdays, he'd grab that same bucket, he'd put it in the car. We'd drive to the batting cages, because back then we'd have to pay like 25 cents, put a quarter in the machine to get about 8 or 10 balls that they would get to hit. And he would just lay quarters up there and just drop quarters in while I'm batting. He just give me some tips and pointers. Well, that's where it began, because one day he looked at me and he goes, I need to tell you something. So he motioned me up there to him, and he said, "Kenny, what's in the well comes up in the bucket."
Mm.
Now, as a 12-year-old, do you know that? Like, I didn't go, "Woo, yeah, I got a great nugget of life lesson here." And I'm going, like, I didn't totally understand. He said, "What's in the well comes up in the bucket." And
Love
so,
that.
as I've been reflecting on that, so here we go. You fast forward a year. Okay, bench warmer. We're in the next season with him coaching me. We're in the bottom of the sixth inning. We're leading 7-6 in the club championship. I'm on the mound. I've been pitching the whole game. I batted 5 for 5, and he said, "Can you close it out?" I said, "Let's do it." And 3 outs later, we're club champions. So I go from bench warmer to MVP,
Wow.
all because of a coach. All because he saw where I could become. He saw a lot further down the road than I did. He believed in me where maybe I didn't believe in myself, or I felt like I had it, but it had to be drawn out of me. So as I thought about that story, I thought about that moment in my life, and thinking about different things of how we've got in our life, whether we're facing a difficult situation, whether it could be marriage related, it could be kids, it could be the job or whatever else. What's in the well comes up in the bucket was just a statement that is just, man, that has propelled bucket flipper coaching, because what's in the well comes in the bucket. So you got to know the well. So what's in there? So see, sometimes we know that there's a lack of belief. We know that there's limiting beliefs, or there's just I've just got stinking thinking, right? Or I've got a rotten attitude that's way down in there, but what's it presenting itself is up in the bucket. Well, you have to own your bucket. So when I think about that, what's the well? So know the well. Well, you got to know the source. And so with all of that in my coaching, that framework has been developed and that thought has come through. That's where bucket flipper coaching came through. If it that one moment of flipping the script of like, so when I grab a 5 gallon bucket, I was taught at the school recently, I grab a baseball and I have words written on the baseballs. And that what's in the well comes a bucket. So I'll reach down the bucket and go, oh, and here's something. It could be attitude, or it could be, I have just I don't trust people. That there be things that they're in that. So then when you pull it up in the bucket and you own it, now you can address it and replace it. You can flip the bucket. You can flip the script with really what truth will say about that. So if you talk about identity, same thing. If I've got the wrong identity thought, like I'm worthless, I love it. Hey, you are worthy network. That's exactly what it is. When you look down in that well and you look in the bucket and you go, well, I'm worthless. I'm no good. I'm not. No, you're fearfully and wonderfully made. You're chosen. You're this. I mean, you can just go down into the well and replace that with truth. So that way up in the bucket goes, oh, this is really who I am. This is my identity. That's bucket flipper coaching. That's how that came about.
I love that. And I have a couple of thoughts before I ask you something else. Yeah, and that is interesting because I wondered if it came from a bucket of baseballs. I did wonder that. So I'm glad to hear that story. And the other thing that I like is you said it was your grandfather, right?
Yeah.
That, so in coaching, there's different styles, right? And I think there's this style that's presented sometimes as, well, let's sit down and talk, and you tell me what you want to achieve, and the answer lies within you, and that's all fine and well, and it might move the needle a tad. But I think you just gave the exact example that I want to camp on for just a second. More effective coaching. If I don't know how to hit a fastball, then I need somebody to help me that has done it. I need someone to show me how to position my hands on the bat, what batting stance to have. Maybe I need to move up or back in the batting box. It's not just, well, how do you think you should hit it, Steve? It's like, no, we need to go a little further here than that vagueness, in my opinion. That's a whole nother soapbox. But I love that he was hands on with you, and you gave that great quote that he gave you, what's in the well shows up in the bucket, right? So he was working with you on mechanics, but you could make the point even more important. He was working on the right mindset, and I love how you focus on that. I have been on that discovery myself the last couple of years of limited thinking, imposter syndrome, and we all go through it, right?
Yeah.
But I've learned that whether it's a mindset gap or a block, here's the part we don't talk about enough. It's coming from a wound in the past. And unless you heal that wound, and I'm not a therapist, I know therapists, but I have some experience with helping people identify their wounds, and there's tools to help them get past that. Then you come up to modern day. Okay, now we've healed this wound. Now we can deal with the mindset blocks. But that's a whole nother conversation. But I love what you're saying because none of us does healthy mindset work alone.
Well,
Would you
and you
agree with
think of,
that?
oh, 100%, because we have to have, again, if we still use this bucket, that you have to have somebody to help you draw it out. They've got to draw it out of you. And I love what you said. It's a scar or a wound or whatever's there. That's what I keep saying, man. You got to own your bucket. You can't like just blame people for this. I mean, and I had a moment, it was shared another time, but there's a moment that I had to come to reconcile, man, almost like 40 years later in my life, and really drilling down to where that came from. Like, why am I so driven to do this? I had to go back and look at real. So I had to go back in the source of that well to realize, man, these actions are coming up in my bucket, and why? I had to go back there. So most people have to find out that, hey, listen, I've got to do the reflective work. It is hard. And I love the analogy. What one guy, I heard one pastor talk about it. He says, I didn't really want to do it. He said, because I felt like it was like a manhole cover. The manhole cover is like, if I peel that manhole cover back, it's going to suck me down in that and drop me down the abyss. That's what he felt
Mm.
like. I loved his analogy. His wording that was perfect but he said, when I did lift the manhole cover up and I did drop down and I got on the other side, I found out that I was in a healthier place, as
Yeah.
Jesus would save living water. And I loved his, but there is fear. That it is. I mean, and some people say, well, I'll just forget about it. No, it bubbles up. The bucket cracks. It leaks. It'll come through somewhere in your life. It'll show up.
Oh, absolutely. And the last thing I'll say about this part is, when you look at Jesus approaching the invalid man at the pool,
Oh yeah.
he actually walks over some people that also needed healing, by the way, and he's headed directly to the guy that's been invalid at the pool, I think for what, 38 years, the word
Yeah.
says?
Yeah. Close to 40. Yeah.
Yeah. And he asked him, do you want to get well? Now, you can read that on the surface and say, that's a little harsh. But no, Jesus knew his heart. And
Mm.
Jesus knew that he was going to offer up excuses, which he did, by the way. For his first couple of three answers were
Yeah.
excuses.
They were.
After 38 years, you would think you're going to find a way, right? If you want it bad enough. And I think that's my point here. I believe that he was afraid of healing. Why? Because healing comes with responsibility.
No, that's good.
And he knew he was going to have to go out and share how he'd been healed and what Jesus had done for him.
Mm.
And anyway, we know the rest of the story. Jesus does heal him, and that is exactly what happens. He gets responsible. But thinking of our situations, people want to be healed. What I always say is, and I mean this in the most compassionate, empathetic way possible, whatever happened to you was most certainly not your fault. However, healing is still your responsibility. And it's because you need to live the best life you can here. And it's not just for you, it's for your wife, it's for your kids, it's for your family, it's for your friends. It's that impact that you're talking about, Kenny, to
Right.
all of those that God puts in your life.
That's right. Yeah. So good. So good.
So Kenny, tell us about, like, from your vantage point, what lights you up? I mean, is it working one on one with individuals? Is it doing a corporate training? Is it speaking from a stage? I know you enjoy all of that, but if I could say 2 o'clock this afternoon, Kenny, your calendar's clear and you could go serve whoever you want at 2 o'clock, where would you be?
I've been loving going into corporations and do trainings. I've just that stuff's been really good. And that could just blend in because that's speaking as well, right? I mean, you're going into a group of people, you're speaking. I do believe you make the greatest impact with one on one. Like you can drill down and make some really good impact with people. But man, if it was 2 o'clock today and I was able to go be somewhere, I'd love to be at a training somewhere that I'm leading. A multitude of people. I just that part I love doing it.
Give us a little, okay, so you've got that, hypothetically, you've got that scheduled for 2 o'clock today. You're going to go speak at XYZ company, 10 miles from your house. What do you enjoy teaching them the most?
Well, there's multiple things, but what I've really enjoyed as of late, okay, and this will make sense. Okay, so when I had my stroke, I had what was called aphasia. Okay, most people will know aphasia a little bit, but what's in the head up here, we just can't find the wording out the lips. Okay, it's up
Okay.
here. It just doesn't connect. So here's where it kind of got. But I love personality stuff. Like I just geek out on it. I think it's just so fun to watch because it's. I mean, you can really peg people, but it's to help people and it's for you to connect better. So when I had my stroke and I had aphasia for the first time, Steve, in 30 at that time 31 years, My wife and I had never had trouble communicating. But now
Mm.
all of a sudden, what was in my head did not come out my lips. And she's looking at me kind of weird, like, okay. Some of these were daggers, like daggers. And like she just had to guard her heart big time. And I'm like, finally I went, time out. What did I just say? And she repeated because I had to start rewiring this whole process again. So I thought about that. I was like, you know what? That's really, I mean, marriages are like that, of course. Corporations are like that as well. Where's one of their biggest disconnects in that is communication.
And
So when I go, so what I do is I start. Man, I love disc. I think, and the reason why I like disc so well is because I think it's so easy. It's easy because you can give them a big win right out the gate. So if I were to go, so you had a corporation, I'm coming to Steve's You Are Worthy Network training today at 2:00, and we're gonna have you got 60 employees. Then guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna show you some things of how you can figure out other people's personality types and give you a couple of nuggets in there on each personality type so that way you can now connect with them. I love what Maxwell says about it's connection. It's about connection. Everybody communicates, but few connect. Now, another guy I've heard it say, and I love this, it's always connection before content. And you think about that in the preaching scene, it's always connection before you actually give whatever. But most guys get stuck in the content. They don't connect, they just give content. Well, when you go into a boardroom, guess what happens? They just been given content, they didn't connect. So, what am I doing? Is I've been working over this last, meaning about 8 months. I've been working on this whole disconnection piece. What does this look like in the church? What does this look like in corporations? And so now I'm going in there to look at this. Is that disconnection is an $8.8 trillion issue globally. Now, for me, the solution to one solution that can help aid that issue is learning disc. If I can connect on a much deeper level with everybody, I'm not saying we got to go have dinner tonight or we got to go on vacations together. But what I am saying is, like, I understand when you walk into my office, how can I connect with you with what you're bringing into me in our conversation? Or how can I bring this into our boardrooms or our larger group meetings that we have that's not going to be boring, but we can connect with everybody in that room, that we know how to really guide that conversation. So what I've been doing is I've been going into corporations and saying, okay, here's this. Let me work on, because we know that top down leadership is kind of a thing of the past as far as effectiveness. Now, that once upon a time that worked. But right now we're hearing more about collaboration. We know that the millennials and the Gen Zers and all the, man, they love more collaboration. Even music, we talk about musically speaking, there's not just one writer on that specific song. There's 5 or 6 or 10 writers on a song. Collaboration is huge. So when I go in, I'm showing them how they can collaborate and connect through disc. And that's what I'm doing.
and that obviously is going to build more collaboration, more trust,
Yeah.
which is huge, right? I mean, I'm sure it's very eye-opening to not just see things from your perspective, but after going through DISC, oh, that makes sense the way they respond that way, or why they communicate that way, or just the way they're wired is different from me. So I'm
Yeah.
expecting them to act more like me when that's not even the way they're wired. It's not even
Correct.
realistic. So I'm sure it's very eye-opening right out the gate.
Well, it
Uh,
is. And if you think about the stats, I mean, think about this: $8.8 trillion is left on the table globally. And then if you take that into America alone, that's 450 to $550 billion left on the table just because people are disconnected. And then if you take burnout, which that leads to, that's a $320 million issue. So you just made, so it's a bottom line issue, yes, but it's also this connection piece that, hey, we need to know more about each other. The better we know more about each other. I love how you said that. Yes. That that leader was really sharp when they came in. They pretty quick and abruptly, whatever. Well, that might have been more of a D-wired person. And I can tell you what, They were thinking about the bottom line and the results that they were going after. They didn't think about the personality part of it or the personal side of it, the people side. It was about getting results. And when people know these things, they know, oh, that's how. But it also does this too, Steve. When I do debriefs with them or do group sessions with them, is that I go in there to say, yes, too many people said this. Well, Steve, this is just how I am. This is how I am. Well, no, we want to get you from a place of, okay, this is a starting point. We need to move you to a better place in this transformation process. So now look at this. Now that we know in a stress situation, you respond this way, you know it, 100%. But if we can show you that now that you know that, let's show you how to handle that in a healthier way that doesn't blow people up or whatever else in your stressful situations. There's all kind of things that I'm walking through with them with that specific, debrief. And it's eye opening because when I know that I lean into, like, I get real talkative, or I'm trying to be this way, or if I'm more of an S wired and I want to make sure everybody's good and don't hurt anybody's feelings, I got to gather them up. If I know that, because that's what I'm trying to do in a stressful situation, well, sometimes you got to go, well, that one person needs you to go, well, okay, we need to go here, here, and here, and here, and it's okay. So I'm giving them really tools that they can take from the corporate setting to raise their bottom dollar, to let their connection be better. But also, Steve, they can go home and they can have better marriages and better conversations with their kids. That's what I like about it. I don't want them to win just at work. I want them to work, to win at their home and in life in general. Because here's what I believe. Here's what I said. This stat got me, man. This stat really hit me between the eyeballs. Top executives were asked what constitutes your successful business day, and they said 87% people knowledge and 13% product knowledge. And I thought right there, Steve, church leadership has that flipped. That's why we have issues. If we became really good students of people skills,
Yeah.
we listen, what more of the gospel do we need to know? What more? I mean, honestly, like, what more of it? Like, we got the product, right? We got enough to go out and reach somebody for the Lord, or what do they know? But if you can take people skills and say, okay, I want to become great at people, then guess what happens to everything in your organization? It can be church, it can be in corporate USA, Fortune 500 company, it could be it could be down here at McDonald's, or it could be wherever else. If you're really good at that, like, I know what a Big Mac is, I know what French fries are, but if I can really work on the people that I work with and people that come across my counter, if I'm great at that, it's gonna be, man, I'm gonna go far in life. That's what I'm trying to help people do.
I love that. When I was going into the ministry several years ago, and we were getting ready to have to move from our home church to go to a church where we knew no one, didn't know the culture, didn't know, the weather was going to be extremely different. I mean, it was, it's daunting, but that's what God does to get you to depend on Him. I remember an elder said to me something like, "Young buck, don't forget, you can go faster by yourself." And he was referring to me and my wife in this specific situation. He said, but with her, you'll go further. But I think the same lesson applies to everything we're talking about here. And
Correct.
that stat you gave about 87-13, it's fascinating because what we've been doing in the church here the past year is I'm a theme guy, and that makes it easier for the church and for me for planning purposes. So we've done one another all year long. Matter of fact, we've done it from the first Sunday in January until this Sunday is actually my last one. But like one another, and what's going to come up in one another all the time is love one another, right? And I'm big on that anyway because Jesus is big on that. And that's what I tell my church all the time. Like, don't think it's just my opinion. This is what the red letters say, and that's what we're going to teach. So a couple of years ago, I was teaching on love, and I had one person say, "When do we get to move on past love?" And they didn't mean it like in a overly critical way. I'm like, we don't. And it's kind of to your point. You can go as deep into theology as you want, and that's great. Do that, but it's always going to come back to loving God and loving one another. And oh, by the way, there's a missing commandment in there, I say, and it goes back to the whole mindset thing we're talking about. Love your neighbor how? as you
as
love
yourself.
yourself.
Right.
You're not going to reach out to them and serve them and love them if you have all this negative stuff about yourself. Anyway, that's my soapbox. But Kenny, I'd love to bring you back sometime and take even a deeper dive into some of this. I think it's fascinating what you're doing. I see how passionate you are about it. I'm, you know, I didn't know you before the stroke. I assume you were a very, very faithful guy. You were an encouraging guy, but I sense there's you're living each day with intentionality and a little bit of urgency because of what you said, because you know the next day is not promised. Would that be accurate?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how we should live, right? But we should live that. I love it. So William Borden was one of my favorite people about his story. And I don't have time to go into the story, but he was a young guy, very bright, brilliant, could done anything, but wanted to be a missionary. And he ended up going on the mission field. And at age of 25, he died of spinal
Mm,
meningitis. And but in his journal, he wrote, no reserves, no retreats, and no regrets. And if I look at that life, then I'll look at somebody at 25, we'll look at that and go, oh man, why do you have to die so young? But he lived such a rich, full life for 25 years. And his words should ring true with us. No reserves, no retreats, no regrets. William Bourne's been one of those guys I've looked up to because he graduated from high school in the early 1900s in Chicago. But you think about that. And so when I look at that, so one thing that if I could just encourage the people today, is yes, it's intentionality would be a word that I've really used. Man, you got to have intention to say I've got to become better. Okay, I've got to become better at my craft. I got to become better at my relationships. I got to become better just overall in life. But you got to be very intentional to do that. And by being intentional, that I'm gonna be intentional about growing in certain areas. I mean, all these things. And so if I finish all my talks, I finish with this, and this is what I leave them with. As long as you have a pulse, you have a purpose, and the king has a plan.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And that's a great place for us to land today, because one of the things I do, Kenny, is I remind folks of their worth, obviously, but there's also something else that you didn't know before you came on is on the banner of the You Are Worthy Network on Facebook. If you look towards the bottom of that banner, it says your story's not over yet. And you're living proof of that.
Mm,
20, 27, 28 months ago, your life could have been hanging in peril, but God wasn't done yet.
that's
And
right.
so that drives you today. So you're a great example to our viewers that your story wasn't over yet. And if they're here today with air in their lungs, God does have a purpose. The King does have a purpose. And so I hope you guys are encouraged by what you've heard Kenny share, and you're encouraged by God does love you and he's not done with your story yet, not by a long shot. Kenny, it's been a treat. You're a treasure for the kingdom. Thank you for all that you're doing to make an impact in people's lives. I know you give God all the glory, as well you should. But I appreciate your friendship and your brotherhood, and I appreciate you being our guest today. It's been awesome.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast to have this conversation with you, and may this be a blessing to many, many people out there.
Amen. Amen. Guys, appreciate each one of you. We're grateful for you. You have worth. Your life matters. Till next time, stay blessed.